Good evening, everybody. And thank you very much, Chris. Let me just start my remarks by thanking Chair Joanne Davidson and the entire Special Independent Board Working Group for their invaluable advice and consultation throughout this process. We've worked very hard in a short period of time. I know you've waited tonight, but a short period of time to investigate this matter and have arrived at our findings independently. And it is important to emphasize that the findings of the independent investigation are the findings of the investigative team, and they are ours and ours alone. I thought I might start with just a brief summary of the process that we followed in this investigation. And it's really at a summary level. But over 40 witnesses were interviewed, many more than one time, many several times, in person and over the phone. More than 60,000 electronic documents and 10,000 pages of Coach Meyer's text messages from the past year were accessed and reviewed, in addition to relevant media statements, police reports, court filings, the employment contracts of Coach Meyer and Athletic Director Gene Smith, other documents, relevant rules and policies, as well as applicable state and federal laws. We also reviewed photos and text messages provided by Courtney Smith, Coach Meyer's calendar entries, and other materials provided by other witnesses. Key witnesses included Coach Meyer, Athletic Director Smith, Courtney Smith, and Zach Smith. We also interviewed key personnel on the football and athletic staffs, in the offices of legal affairs and university compliance and integrity and other OSU departments, local law enforcement, family members of certain witnesses, and others. And I'd like to really emphasize that we have received absolutely extraordinary cooperation from the OSU community throughout this process, for which we're really very, very grateful. As you know, we were asked to conduct an independent investigation of the circumstances surrounding the hiring, retaining, supervising, and firing of former assistant coach Zach Smith on July 23rd, and whether head coach Urban Meyer and athletic director Gene Smith acted appropriately in connection with Zach Smith's alleged commission of domestic violence against his former wife. A significant focus of the investigation was on Coach Meyer's statements at Big Ten Media Days on July 24, 2018, and whether he misrepresented his knowledge of a prior law enforcement investigation involving Zach Smith in 2015, and if so, whether he did so intentionally. So let me just briefly summarize some of our key findings. And I should say at the outset that these and all of our findings are discussed in detail in our written report, which I believe is expected actually to be publicly released later tonight. So as to some of those key findings, first, Coach Meyer was in fact aware of the 2015 law enforcement investigation into allegations of domestic violence by Zach Smith. He was informed of that investigation by Athletic Director Gene Smith in the fall of 2015, and both Coach Meyer and Athletic Director Gene Smith regularly monitored the progress of that investigation for a period of months, although the investigation did not ultimately result in any charges or an arrest. Second, Coach Meyer and AD Gene Smith, although acting in good faith, did not report the investigation of Zach Smith for domestic violence in 2015 to compliance as we believe they should have. Although law enforcement had not brought charges at the time that Coach Meyer and AD Smith became aware of the investigation, the compliance function would have been in the best position to assess whether to conduct an internal investigation into the allegations had they known about them. In the domestic violence context especially, there are many cases in which abuse takes place, but there is no arrest or criminal prosecution. And so simply relying on law enforcement to take action in the face of such allegations is not, in our view, an adequate response. Third, despite Coach Meyer's clear awareness and monitoring in 2015 of the law enforcement investigation of Zach Smith for domestic violence, we ultimately did not conclude that Coach Meyer deliberately lied during his comments at Big Ten Media Days on July 24th, 2018. He has consistently maintained that he did not recall in July 2018 what he knew in 2015 regarding the domestic violence investigation of Zach Smith by law enforcement. And we credit that Coach Meyer, in answering reporters' questions on July 24th, was closely focused on erroneous media reports that Zach Smith had been arrested on felony charges in 2015, which Coach Meyer had determined the night before not to have occurred. But his answers swept more broadly than the falsely reported arrest, and Coach Meyer falsely stated that he lacked knowledge of all relevant events regarding alleged domestic violence by Zach Smith in 2015. While those denials were plainly not accurate, Coach Meyer did not, in our view, deliberately lie. Fourth, Coach Meyer impressed us with his sincere commitment to the respect for women core value that he espouses and tries to instill in his players. We believe that A.D. Smith shares that strong commitment. Fifth, the independent investigation also identified and reported on a number of instances of misconduct and other problematic conduct by Zach Smith while he was employed at OSU as an assistant coach, some of which was known to Coach Meyer and A.D. Smith, and some of which was not. As I said at the outset, these findings that I just summarized for you and all of our findings and the analysis supporting those findings are set forth in detail in our written report. Thank you.